Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon and the remainder of my top 20 board games of 2022. This is number 10 through 1, so this is my top 10 board games of 2022. There are a smidgen of games here that I received either very late in 2021 or, hit started being delivered to backers or something like that, or wasn't available in retail until 2022. So I'm considering them 2022 releases. I'll kind of cover those when I get to them. But without further ado, let's get started with number 10. Number 10 is one of the newer ones on the list, and that's ISS Vanguard. This is another one of the big epic campaign games by Awakened Realms, and this one is very much a space opera in a box. So playing this game made me feel a lot like I was playing Mass Effect, the video game in board game form. You're just kind of dropping down on planets. There's half of it's combat, the other half is just kind of puzzle solving, but everything is a dice check. Rolling these dice, but these dice get exhausted, and then you have to get them back by resting, and depending on the crew and the lander, you may only have but so many rations that you can use to rest with. The miniatures are amazing, as per usual by Awakened Realms. The entire production value is high end. It's a very immersive game. It's a huge table hog. The landing, at least of what I've played so far, the landings on the planet can almost feel, I don't quite know what I'm looking for here, but it's not my favorite part of the game. The best part of this game, honestly, is the ship book. That's the entirely different phase of the game where after you have landed on a planet, collected resources, discovered clues, you're going to bring all that stuff back, and you're going to gain new research projects to unlock. Your crew's going to come back injured, so you might have to heal them. You're going to gain the ability to upgrade your crew and promote them. That whole process is the best part of the game. And it's a really cool part of the game. I don't have any other type of game that has this, procedural element of running a ship, and it's all very tight. It's not overly done, or it's all right there in the book. It's just putting cards in and moving around. The book is incredibly well done with custom sleeve, pages for your cards to go in. So if you are a Star Trek fan, or a space fan, or a space opera fan, and you're looking for some kind of big epic campaign, this would be one that I would recommend. It was just hard for me to put it up higher because 50% of the game is, or only 50% of the game is what I am most excited about. But it is still top 10 on my list, so that's not chump change right there. Coming in at number 9 is Wayfarers of the South Tigris. This is another one that's pretty new, and I think that over time this one will probably move up my list, certainly on my list of Garfield games. So Wayfarers of the South Tigris is a tableau builder that utilizes worker placement, both placing meeples and dice that you've rolled out. So your tableau that you're building out, you start with like a central city, and you're building kind of land and vista cards to the left and sea and harbor cards to the right. And then on top of both of those cards, you can open up the sky, the night sky, and place like stars and planets and things like that. So very interesting mechanic of how you're building out the tableau, because it's not just one long row. It's like a row with top and bottom, and then you're slotting people underneath, workers underneath. All of this is trying to build up your engine so that when you roll your dice, because you're going to be placing your dice are your dice. No one can touch them. They're always yours. When you rest, you get them back. But when you roll the number, the number that is showing on the pip, that's going to have a certain number of tags associated with it. At the beginning of the game, it's not very many, so you can't do very much with those dice. But as you make your way through the game and build up your engine, you are adding tags to specific pips on a die, so then when you roll those dice, you can either manipulate them or you've hit on a fair number of tags and then you can do stuff with them. The worker meeples that you can use, when you get them and then you put them out somewhere, they actually stay out there until someone claims that card. It could be you or it could be someone else. So there could be points of the game where you have 0 meeples in front of you to place as workers, but you always have your dice. Anyways, there's a typical track that you're moving along. It feels very Garfield games, but this one is also very heavy. This is easily the heaviest game out of the Garfield line that I have played, which was enjoyable, especially playing solo where I could just sit down and think through all of the moves and what I wanted to do. It's very crunchy, and I didn't have to worry about pissing anybody off with analysis paralysis and things like that. So if you're looking for a heavier Garfield game, or you want to jump in and get started on the ground floor with their new trilogy, you feel like you got on the bus too late for North Sea and West Kingdom, well, go ahead and jump on this one. I doubt you will be disappointed. Coming in at number 8 is Ark Nova. This is one that people started to get their hands on in 2021, but then it just disappeared. So if you look this up on BGG, it's going to say 2021, but it was incredibly hard to get your hands on that first wave, and so it wasn't until the second printing that most people were able to actually get this game, and that's when I finally got my hands on it early on in 2022. And this is a great game. This is like you're building up a zoo using kind of a action selection slash hand management. So like I said, you're trying to build up a zoo, doing various things, but the key mechanic is this row of action cards along the bottom, and you decide to take an action, and where it is sitting on the row 1 through 5 is how strong that action is going to be. And then once you take that action, you're going to take that card, move it all the way down to the left, and so everything else that was behind it or earlier than it in the row is going to push up and become higher. So if you use the 5 action, it then becomes a 1 action. You could do that same action again the next turn, but it's not going to be nearly as strong. And then every action has a reverse side to it. You can see here in the picture that the build action has a 1 and a 2 side. So eventually you're upgrading your cards, all while playing out these cards to try and hit on combos and move along this scoring track that has kind of 2 points to it. And whoever's the first person to wrap their point markers around and touch or cross triggers the end game, and then there's point scoring from there. But it is a great little game, and the solo mode works fine. It really just kind of feels like you're have a clock put on you. Can you be successful? Can you get your point markers to meet within that allotted time frame and a certain number of hands? Whereas in a standard game, when you're playing against other people, you have as much time as you need. The other players are what's putting pressure on you. So the solo mode was pretty good. I feel like if I got this to a group that really enjoyed it, this one might move up my list. But for right now, there are other games that I've been wanting to play this year. Number 7 is Marvel Zombies Heroes Resistance. I have complained my fair share about CMON games on this channel, and I complained a fair amount about Marvel Zombies or Marvel Zombicide. But at the end of the day, all of my bluster about CMON, they still produce good games. They may not be doing the right thing when it comes to Kickstarter or shipping, and I purchased this game from Amazon on retail, cheaper than what the MSRP of it was. So I am happy to have just gotten this game for the price that it was, because it is a good game, and it's a really nice version of Zombicide that I feel stands out enough from Black Plague that I can keep them both in my collection. This one is definitely like slimmed down version of Zombicide, which allowed me to get it to the table with my kids. My kids obviously, my boys loved the Marvel superhero characters and thought the zombies were cool, but regular Zombicide was probably just a shade over their head. I'm not too worried about the gore or anything like that. Just, a little bit too much going on. Whereas this one was very straightforward. There's no item cards and things like that. You don't need to one shot, like the fatties and things like that. So this one was enjoyable that they just kind of trimmed it down. Also, the fact that they have all of the zombies are standees, I really just appreciated. I do appreciate playing Black Plague where I have my zombies and the majority of them are painted and it's very immersive. But for the purposes of just getting this to the table quickly and playing a fun little game, the standees worked out well. Here I am yammering on, and you guys don't get to see the pictures, for those of you not familiar with it. So you can see here clearly that there is standees for the zombies, except for the zombie heroes, which are like Captain America turned zombie and Doctor Strange. Those are miniatures, and then your heroes are miniatures. So it's like a really nice mixture of miniatures for the things that matter and standees for the things that you're just like putting out tons and tons of on the board. There's also only 4 map tiles, which to some people may seem like not enough, but there's still 10 scenarios in the book, so they're doing a lot with those 4 map tiles. Plus, I kind of appreciate a Zombicide game that isn't 6 map tiles for almost every single scenario, which again can be a huge table hog. This one also, they've gotten rid of the like plastic player dashboards and just kind of put everything on all that information on the cards, and so it's easier to play four-handed. If you are playing solo. So just a lot of nice quality of life improvements for a kind of trimmed down, more accessible version of Zombicide. Number 6 is The Great Wall. This is another one by Awakened Realms. This is one that I believe I received my copy at the very end, like after Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's of 2021. So again, this is another one that technically came out in 2021, but it was so late in the year that I didn't have time to give my opinion on it, and it wasn't included in my reviews last year. I didn't start reviewing it until January of this year. So The Great Wall, I spoke about this game during my top 10 or top 12 worker placement games, and this one was very surprising to me how well it worked. This is by Awakened Realms, who typically do big, high-end, narrative-driven campaign games, and this is a pure worker placement with a tower defense mechanism as the end goal of your worker placement. Also, another thing that really kind of drew me into the game or the campaign to begin with was the fact that they were offering a Meeple version and a miniature version. So a very cost-effective Meeple version, or go all out, bling it up, more expensive but very, very immersive miniatures version. Like I said, the miniatures are super high quality. Each of the factions have like unique sculpts. And then you have these 3D walls that go up on the board, which help with the immersion factor. But I ended up getting the Meeple version. I'm very happy with my Meeple version. Would I love to have the miniatures version? Yes, but when I think worker placement, I think of little wooden meeples. All of that aside, that's just cosmetic. The game plays exactly the same either way. And just, the nature of how the AI works for the solo mode, or if you're going to play it multiplayer, just this whole aspect of kind of fighting over worker placement spots. Not really fighting over them, because you actually have to fill up most of the spots. You have to fill up to a certain degree before they'll fire off and give you anything. So it's almost a little bit of a worker investment. Sometimes workers may stay at a spot longer than you expected until enough other people go there, because if you flood it with your people, you're going to get some negative stuff. All of this to say is that you're trying to defend the wall against the incoming horde, but at the same time get the most honor out of defending it more than the other people. So there's a lot of really great mechanics in this game. It is a very thematic game, in my opinion, for a worker placement game. Very immersive, great production value, So if you're looking for something a little different from like Agricola or Feast for Odin, that's a worker placement, check this one out. Number 5 is Marvel Dice Throne. So Dice Throne, all Dice Throne games pretty much behave the same. It's a Yahtzee style battler. Yahtzee style meaning you get to roll your 6 dice out, and then you can pick up any ones you want, or all of them, or none of them, and then you can roll them again. And then if you choose to, you can pick up any number of them again and roll them a third time. After your third roll, you are stuck with the dice you have. Well, in Dice Throne, the dice faces have not only some symbols on them, but also the numbers. So you're going to take a combination of those numbers and symbols and look at your player board and see what can you accomplish, what can you attack. And a lot of the combinations are very poker based, so full houses and large straights and small straights and things like that. But it's also then just a good mixture of the symbols. All of the attacks you can do are thematic to the character that you're playing. And then you basically aim your damage at the other person. They may or may not be able to roll for defense. And then you just keep going back and forth like this. There are some cards that you can build up your combat points to spend and kind of sway dice rolls or change the game or heal yourself, things like that. And so there's that added layer to the game. But this game works really well. I took this with me to my family reunion this summer and got my brother's family super hooked on the game. It's so smooth, it's so easy to teach, it works well, production value is through the roof with these, and this version, the Marvel version, some people really appreciate the first 2 seasons, which were Dice Throne specific characters. They were in the Dice Throne universe, they weren't IP in any regards, but other people now are taking note of this game because they like the IP and they want to play as Thor or Loki or Scarlet Witch. You can find this in Target now, whereas the other ones you could maybe find in Barnes & Noble, online, or at your friendly local game store. So anyways, this is it. It's not cooperative unless you go get Dice Throne Adventures, which is the biggest of all the boxes in the group and easily the most expensive. But if you are looking for something that you can just kind of have fun going head to head against somebody, it's a great entry point for just a 2-character battle box, or you can just go big and get the whole battle chest. Either way, I highly recommend this one. Marvel Dice Throne did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. So there you go. Coming in at number 4 is Clank Catacombs. So Clank is one of my all-time favorite deck builders. It is really just very straightforward, very simple, but that added mechanic of movement, so it's like a purchasing power, a fight, and a movement. Add that in, it's always been a top 3 deck builder in my opinion. Throw in the mix now of the fact that the dungeons that you're going into are kind of procedurally generated by yourself by just flipping over random tiles and then rotating them however you see fit. Puts so much more tension into the game. This true fear of, am I gonna make it out? I used to play Clank and never be worried about being able to get out because I could see the entire board in front of me. I knew exactly what it would take to get out. I knew how much movement I had added to my deck. So I always knew if I could go a little bit further, or if somebody else started making it for the door, would I be able to catch them? How much Clank did I have in the bag? All of that predictability has been thrown out the window with Clank Catacombs because you see nothing but that starter tile, and then things are added as they go, and the dragon in this version can crush complete sections of the catacombs. So you could be thinking, all right, I can see my path back, and then the dragon gets pissed and completely blocks off that path. So next thing you know, you're having to explore all the way around the other way, hoping that you can make it back to the entrance in time. Just really love everything they did with Clank Catacombs. So if you're looking for a great deck builder, I would look the way of Clank, and I don't see any reason why, the Clank and Clank in Space or Acquisitions Incorporated, which is a legacy version, they are all still super relevant. But at this point, I kind of don't know why, if they're all relatively the same price, why you wouldn't go for the 2022 car versus the 2017 or 2019 version of the car. Anyways, I'm getting a little weird in my analogies, so let's move on. Number 3 is Marvel United X-Men. This is another one that if you look at it on BGG, it's going to say 2021, but this is about the time I started to be like, really, Simon, you're kind of irking me with things. I'm not a fan of how you handled Marvel United and the whole Walmart thing and paying people extra all of a sudden for split shipping when that wasn't initially a thing. So I waited for all of my Marvel United X-Men content, and that all was delivered in 2022. So when I add this, part of that caveat is that I have the entire collection of Marvel United stuff, both Marvel United and X-Men. And X-Men, I feel like, just added more to a incredibly great system. Fast, fun-paced, easy to teach. The miniatures are really fun to paint. I can play this with my kids. It's just the iconography and the simplistic nature of the gameplay make it very easy to get it to the table. If I want a challenge, I can go find more challenging villains and throw them in the mix when it's just me. Or I can find these simple villains and the simple characters and play those with my boys. There's so much to love about this game. I'm a little surprised it didn't jump up into my number 1 after Marvel United was my number 1 the year it came out. But they really did not add a whole lot more. They just added more characters. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So that's my number 3, Marvel United X-Men. Coming in at number 2 is Massive Darkness 2 Hellscape. Didn't mean to make Massive Darkness 2 number 2, but that's how it worked out. So Massive Darkness 2 was a long anticipated game by CMON. This is back when I trusted their, charging for shipping procedure and things like that, and I had gone all in on Massive Darkness because I was really behind the whole each hero character in the game has a different play style, has a different class. Every class has a different gimmick, you could say, and play style, and I was really drawn to that, and they delivered on that. The fact that the core rules all play the same, so I don't feel like I have to relearn Massive Darkness every time I sit down and play, which is what happened with Merchant's Cove. I felt like I was having to learn a different game every time I sat down and played Merchant's Cove, playing with the different style of merchant. Whereas this one, I don't feel like I have to relearn the game, but experimenting with the different classes and how they function and react and their pieces and things like that is a lot of fun. I think there's a great mixture in the classes. Each one, there's like a push your luck, there's a bag builder, there's a rondelle style, there's one who can just upgrade everything about himself. There is a druid where you can actually change miniatures and character form and things like that. So there's a great variety. There's a ton of content. This one actually is not quite getting the attention I think CMON was hoping for. I had never played Massive Darkness 1. A lot of mixed reviews are about that one, so a lot of people are thinking that Massive Darkness 2 kind of got a bad rap and its sales are down because people just think it's a reskinning of Massive Darkness 1, but it is not. So this is a fun one. This is a pure dice chucker. This is not one to take too seriously. For the most part, they are one-off scenarios, but they do have a campaign mode that you can pick up as an expansion. This is just pure fun, classic dungeon crawler, dice chucker with more miniatures than you can shake a stick at. I think the biggest reason why this one didn't make number 1 for me is the fact that it is almost a chore getting it all out to the table. Because I wanted to mix all of the content I had from going all in on the Kickstarter, that means that any moment any of the mobs that I have in my possession could come out. So I have to have all of those kind of ready, and it would be too much of a pain to remove half the cards, and I don't know. So sometimes it's just almost too much. But other times I love that I have it all. So anyways, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this one shouldn't be too much of a surprise. There has been a lot of content on the channel regarding this one particular game, and it's technically an expansion. My number one is Everdell Mistwood, which is a expansion for Everdell. Now, Everdell the Complete Collection did come out same time as Everdell Mistwood did and Everdell New Leaf. So some may argue that I could just put Everdell up here, but Everdell Mistwood was such a game-changing expansion for me as a mainly solo player that I just cannot get enough Everdell since the Complete Collection was delivered to me. So Mistwood did add a few more cards and components, but for the most part, the main thing that Mistwood brought to the table was this new AI, Nightweave. It's a big critter meeple that you can see, that big spider, and then a bunch of little critter meeples, spiders that are going to go and block your location. She goes and actually blocks your location, whereas Rugwort, the original AI, just kind of copied your actions. So if you built out of the meadow, he would build out of the meadow, or if you played a card, he would play a card. Other than that, he wasn't doing any. Well, he would block. He would sit down and block a space at the round 1, and then round 2 he would block 2 more, and so by the end of the game he would have blocked off half of them and it would never move. Whereas Nightweave, she goes and sits and blocks, but then every time she prepares for a season, she cleans off the board just like human players would. She's got all of these different modules you can add in that change her personality and her tactics and her plots. They just kind of will increase the difficulty at various increments. There's also, various levels of difficulty where it depends on how well she scores in her actual city. It's just a really well done AI. I have covered the Nightweave components ad nauseum on the channel. I've had conversations with the designer to make sure I'm getting it right, but it just completely changed how much fun I was having with Everdell, which was already a great game. The Complete Collection, certainly is not doing it a disservice. That's certainly helping it get to the table more and more often, but the Mistwood expansion is the main reason why I have played Everdell more than any other game in 2022, so it was a very obvious choice of number one. So go check it out. Go check out Everdell. If you are a solo player, be sure to pick up the Mistwood expansion. If you need to learn how to play, check out my coverage on the channel. If you have been enjoying these videos, please consider giving them a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. That is just about going to do it for our kind of 12 days of Christmas, or our kind of year-end wrap-up for 2022. I have one more video for you guys, and that's going to be my most anticipated games of 2023. We're going to see a few repeats from last year because those games just did not deliver, and I'm still waiting for them to come, including my number one. We'll see if it's still my number one most anticipated game. But that is going to wrap up my kind of end of year review here. Be on the lookout for coverage of Wingspan Asia, Zombicide Gear Up, and My Little Everdell coming very soon to the channel, as well as some additional Hoplomachus Victorum content. So without further ado, I'm going to say good night. Happy holidays to you all. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.